So, welcome to the seminar series, Transdisciplinarity in Education and Research. This seminar series is part of the European Civic Alliance, CIVIS, and it's brought to you by the Hub One Climate, Environment and Energy. It's a real pleasure for me today to welcome Dr. Leyla Amicis from University of Glasgow. And Leyla is going to be talking with us about how psychology can help us with environmental sustainability and biodiversity. I'm super much looking forward to this talk, and I'm sure you all are. As with all of our talks, we'll listen to Leyla until the end of her talk, and then when she's done, I'll stop the recording, and then we can have an open discussion for the remaining time. So, Leyla, a warm welcome to the European University Alliance CIVIS. We're looking very much forward to listening to you. I'm going to turn my own camera off so we get a really nice recording. And if anything goes wrong, I'll just appear. And of course, if you're, as you mentioned, you're talking to us from your apartment, which there might be some problems with the roof falling in your head. If it does, don't worry, I'll jump in and help out. Leyla, welcome to CIVIS.
Thank you very much, Alistair, and thank you very much, everyone, for being here and listening to this talk. I hope that we will have also a very good discussion. The first part of the talk will be really mostly about climate change issues and mitigation and adaptation. And then I will go more in depth about what the role of psychology can be in helping us with environmental sustainability and biodiversity. So, yes, we know that we have like a problem with climate change, and this is a thing that since the IPCC reports that have evidence how our actions as humans are affecting and causing heat waves, heavy downpours, floodings, droughts, and biodiversity loss. So all of these have also like negative consequences on human health, security, well-being, livelihood, food and water supplies, infrastructures, and economic growth and poverty. So climate change, the climate change threat is responsible of billions of deaths, but also related disabilities. So we know that we have a goal to limit the temperature increase to 1 centigrade centigrades, but now we are talking about 2 centigrades. So we know that the causes are also greenhouse gas emissions and also methane due to combustions of fossil fuels, deforestation, and livestock farming. So again, these are like very dramatic figures that we are dealing with. So we know that from 1992 to 2017, for example, the 26% of decrease of amount of fresh water per capita. Also, we know that we have the 75% of increase in numbers of ocean death zones, 29% reduction in vertebrate species, 62% increase in carbon dioxide emissions, and 35% of increase in the human population. So obviously, as a human species, we have like a heavy weight on climate change action and biodiversity loss, not just because of our actions, but also because we are massively inhabiting our planet. So, okay. So we are exponentially growing as a population, and as you can see here, the animals, the living biomass is definitely much less than all the human-made mass across the planet, according to a study of Elakam and the colleagues of the 2020. So here there are just like a screen snapshot of how many species are actually affected negatively and almost extincted many species of avian, insects, land, mammal, and ocean life across all the planets. Interesting enough is also that even if the land mammals are estimated as 100 billion land mammal living around the world, we also know that the wild mammals make up just the 4% of the total mammal biomass on Earth, while all the rest are actually farmed animals. So this is also our impact as a human. So we have understood that actually climate change, the climate change threat is as underline a lot of human responsibility. So we are consuming too much too quickly, regardless a ratio of demand and supply. So even if we know it, we worry it, but we don't take so much action or not as much as we should. So what is the problem here? So we could consider an evolutionary line of thoughts about the human behavior. So we are actually, as humans, more prone to solve problems later when they are catastrophic, but we focus on the immediate, on the urgence to take action. We are also very hedonistically oriented. We like pleasure, and also we enjoy this accumulating behavior. This is also cultural related, though, and it has become more and more severe in the last century. So also we are quite subjected to social pressure and comparison. So of course, if others have more in terms of materialistic views, we also like to be at the same level or even better than others. So even if as humans, we have the advantage of being very clever and building a lot of technologies that can help us to live a higher and better quality of life, these technologies don't seem to be enough to actually help us effectively so far, or enough with the climate change threat. So we are causing other species extinctions, not only threatening our survival, and we are also reducing biodiversity. And our survival and other species survival is also threatened because of global pandemics. We know that at the moment, because of the increased sea level, we have the increased heat around the world. We have issues with permafrost and a lot of bacteria that start to moving around the globe and affecting our survival. Sorry, I'm not giving very good news, but I think that everyone is quite aware of all these different issues. So we started to think about our ecological footprints, and we can define them as how fast individuals or populations use the resources and generate waste compared with biocapacity. So we know that we consume badly in a wrong way, or too much energy, water, food, and material goods. It's quite important also our relation with food, because a lot of times this is something that is underestimated as a cause and in relation to climate change, but actually food and animal farming a massive animal farming as we are having at the moment is affecting freshwater consumption. It is cause of massive use of pesticides. Monocultures are also leading to loss of topsoil. We have a concentrate animal feeding operations. Animal factories are based and are using antibiotics for animals. And this is causing also the spread of antibiotic-resistant bacteria. We have manure lagoons, deforestation because of raising farm animals all around the world. Ultra-processed food and waste is also another cause related to climate change as well. So we have understood, or we are starting understanding how it's important for us actually to live according to some ecological principles. So we should actually embrace more understanding of how all life is interdependent. So also how our small actions can have big effects, and how life systems are all naturally circular when we actually think more in terms of extraction lines, like exploiting more and more the land and all the natural resources without leaving time for the planet and natural resources to restore themselves or supporting them in this. So obviously there are some limits to growth, and this is something going against to a capitalistic mentality as well. We have to think in terms of appreciation of diversity, because diversity is actually helping us with the resilience of the planet. So if we are focused on monoculture, we are not going to make any good to the planet. And we have to think in terms of upstream solutions rather than downstream solutions. So prevention is better than solving the problems at the end. So in terms of actions, so what shall we do? So these are like just some examples of what we have been recommended to do. So we should use low carbon energy sources and carriers, adopt energy efficient appliances and systems, implement home insulation, engage in energy saving behavior, purchase low gas emission products, change our diet, having like less meat and less food waste. Also having a direct, indirect use of transport, gas emission transport, and support circular economy in the growth. And as citizens, we should also be organized and engage in protest and affecting our social and civic environment, voting, and of course having an impact also on our workplace and community environments. So this is in line with what the UN also suggested, recommended in terms of sustainability. We know that we need to save the planet and preserve it for the future generations. And all the countries that are involved with the UN, almost 140, have actually commit to respond and react to climate change. But we know that we have to put more effort into this. So here there are some recommendations from the EU, like just saying from lazy to active citizen for sustainability. And there are some simple actions that people can take. It's quite interesting to read them, although now we are also thinking about, are these the most meaningful actions that people can take? So we're going to discuss this soon. And unfortunately, nowadays, we are not talking just about climate change mitigation, but we are talking about climate change adaptation actions. So we are at a stage in which we are dealing with a lot of climate change issues already, so we need to think about what is coming worse and how we can even protect and defend ourselves at this stage. So in terms of taking preparation action, so having emergency kits, wearing protective clothing, purchasing insurances, and evacuating from areas easily affected by climate change hazards, and also supporting policies and system change for reducing climate change and its negative impact. So what does psychology have to do with this? So first of all, what is psychology? So here there is like a very simple definition, but if you look at the British Psychological Society, what they started to say to describe psychology is, as a psychologist, we think about what is going on in your head, our heads. In simple words, psychology is the study of the mind and the behavior. So far, we really talk about what people can do, but before doing it, we have to think about what do they think, what do we think, and what do we feel. So why do humans think, feel, and behave the way that they do? So, but psychologists try to study this with a sound scientific methodology, trying to understand the mechanisms that are underlying our thoughts, feelings, and behavior. So there are different constructs. So here there are just a few examples. We study social, cognitive, emotional processes, personal needs and values, motives and learning, just some examples. But what we do is also to address real world issues. So how can psychology help with climate change and all related issues? So here are some suggestions about Jones, just like some assumptions to take in account. So psychology can focus on social and psychological causes of human activities, so that this will increase sustainability, or at least identify likely limitations of adaptability. So psychology study human activities that are the initial source of all sustainability problems. We are at the stage in which we have a lot of knowledge, but we have still huge scientific gaps in understanding the causes of the human activities contributing to common sustainability concerns. We are aware of the urgency of scientific warnings about environmental degradation, and this justify an applied scientific approach to harnessing human strengths and shortcomings. And also we need to act ethically, and so we need to be able to apply psychological approaches to sustainability in an ethical way, adhering to specific ethics guidelines that the psychological community also can suggest. So recently we talk about psychology or environmental sustainability of or for. Actually now we are more keen on saying this, but it's nice to have like the little acronyms of purpose. So psychology of for environmental sustainability has some roots since a few years ago, actually. So from the 70s, we started to talk about environmental psychology, in which environmental issues were not the main focus of this area of psychology. It was more about how people interact in different environments, also with other species, but also in relation to the natural, but also the built environment. But since the 90s, science psychologists and also this eco-psychology as a roots long time before, even starting from William James, saying how, raising the point that how important it is for people to be connected with nature. So this separation between humans from the natural environment, going to live in the cities and be very alienated from the natural environment is causing a lot of issues from the physical and mental point of view. So this was the focus of eco-psychology, and since 2000s, we can talk about conservation psychology. It's more actually focus on our relation with the planet, how we can preserve it, where we should preserve it, and what we can do to help people to think in this way. So environmental problems are actually behavioral problems. So this is why psychology must be involved. So what's bad for the planet is also bad for human health and well-being, and this is what psychology is also focused on. What is good for the planet is also good for the human health and well-being. So it's the other way around, because our reconnection and preservation of nature really can be helpful for the human species as well. So it's important that psychology is involved. There is this urgency in having psychology integrating in the study of sustainability, environmental and social, that are quite interconnected. And for us, it's a moral imperative. So I have spoken about psychology of environmental sustainability as an independent area of psychology, but actually it's quite important to say how all areas of psychology can be involved in this. So here there are like some examples of the main areas of psychology, even if there are others that I have neglected at the moment, but obviously they can actually have a say into this. But with cognitive psychology, we think about how we can change the beliefs of people, and we can understand the bias and resistance in mental processes against acting against climate change. Developmental psychology is quite important because over the lifespan, all these social, emotional, cognitive processes are also changing. For example, children are more prone, seems like naturally more related with and interested in nature and animals. We have psychology of individual differences is quite important because no one message is good for everyone. So we need to understand how to speak with different people to persuade them to be involved in climate change actions. Media, of course, have a lot of impact in how people can perceive climate change and sustainability. So social and organizational psychology is quite important because we are influenced by others, but also we can influence others. And counseling, clinical and health psychology are very important as well. We are talking about eco-emotions and psychotherapeutic syndromes at the moment because there is a lot of more awareness about climate change threats, more even consequences that some people personally have been affected by. And this is causing a lot of anxiety and negative emotions around this. So how can we increase the climate change action? Because even if we seems to have to be at the stage in which people are started to understanding that there is a problem, but climate change beliefs are also of different types. So now people are most people are thinking in terms of, okay, climate change is actually real, but some people are still like, is it really human caused, or also are really so negative, so many negative effects there. But the other thing is like when people think that all of this is going on, they might feel overwhelmed. So we need to avoid this, and we can support people, empower them, thinking that everyone can actually do something for this, and we can still prevent or do something to contain the situation or to react to it. So values are also very important. Here there are some theories. So especially biospheric values should be strengthened in all people, so that we don't focus only on the human species, but all on our ecological system. It's so here there are some strategies that we can actually use for people to feel like they can do something, so they can emphasize some previous climate actions, and we can also put in relation their values, biospheric values, with the biospheric values of others, thinking about also considering social cost and benefits, and also increase the awareness of climate impact of actions. Every little thing can count, but it's also true that some actions are more impactful than others. So we need to learn about this, so we can increase salience of biospheric values. So this means like we can actually go through people's mind, even if we don't persuade them, but with increasing science, we can actually help people to still behave in the way that we want to contrast climate change. And on the other hand, it's true that individuals are important, but we can't really forget about the systemic impact. So we really need to work also on structural factors to decrease behavioral cost when people engage with climate action. So, for example, if I wanted to take a train, I shouldn't spend much more at least than taking a flight. So these are things to consider altogether. So this is it's important to increase the acceptability of climate policy, but also systemic change, but make them suitable and affordable for everyone. So this is the sphere, our spheres of influence. So psychology works on people, like the person as the unit of analysis of the discipline, but the person can actually affect all the environments around them because of the different roles that they have. So I can affect my private personal life, but also my social network via online media. I can affect my organizational network, so like the working place and other organizations I'm involved, the public sphere, also like considering my vote, protest, and so on, until I can also change the cultural norms systems with using stories and symbols. So here there is an approach that has been used and proposed more recently, but is not necessarily only a framework that psychology can use. Psychology can be integrated with other disciplines in doing this, but it's basically trying to understand what climate change action to help specific communities to take. So sustainable behavior that, increase and support a sustainable behavior that is meaningful for specific communities, because as we said before, no one solution fits for all. So with psychology, we can help people to eliminate or they emphasize like barriers for sustainable behavior and benefits for unsustainable behavior that contrast with the sustainable behavior, but also we can help to introduce benefits of sustainable behavior and also emphasize barriers of unsustainable behavior. So let's say like if I wanted to cycle, and that's a sustainable behavior. The unsustainable behavior will be like driving to work. And so if I use this framework, I can try to think about what kind of actions I can implement. To choose the sustainable or unsustainable behavior I'm focusing on as a scientist, applied scientist, I have also to explore in the specific context what kind of environmental sustainable behavior can be implemented and supported that are more important. And of course, here you can see like a step-by-step way of progress in running this project, if you want. So we start with literature interviews, surveys or observations when we identify barriers and benefits with either surveys, focus group, or intercept survey. We can pilot a study and then see to what extent this might be supported, becoming sustainable across time, also supported, transferred to other contexts. As I said, it's quite important also to consider the reciprocal support that we can have between psychology and other disciplines in this. So to sum up, psychology can help understand the roots of environmental destruction, the psychological factors maintaining it, and what can support individuals, communities, and institutions to change. We need to help people to learn more about the impact of climate footprints, but knowing that we can also act in various ways, but also know the impact of each behavior that we use, we implement. So climate change mitigation and climate change adaptation are important now at the same level. And quite interesting, there's been like a discourse and some worries about, well, if we talk about adaptation, people are not considering anymore about climate change mitigation. Actually, it's not true. People, that seems like people that are more keen on acting in terms of climate change mitigation are also the ones that are more keen on acting for climate change adaptation. So individuals cover different roles, so they can really affect different spheres around them, different environments. So we need to consider people as actors in these different levels of analysis. It's important that we can take also a global perspective. So this is why it's quite important to take also a decolonializing perspective, because we have like many studies in Western countries, but it's important that we act all together globally. And interdisciplinary work, as I said, it's quite important to identify the real issues. So we need information from the scientific, but also non-scientific disciplines to act, and also learn more from the conceptual methodological point of view about what we can do to impact policies and practices. Thank you. So this is me.
And thank you so much for a really interesting and exciting presentation. I'm sure there are lots of questions.